of what children and families are facing in Massachusetts. And so each of these community sessions is designed to actually get the experiences that all of you have had with children and families to complement the data that we see so that we get a more holistic picture of the reality of their day-to-day, what they face, the challenges, the assets they have to work with, et cetera, so that we can start to build solutions that really have them in mind as we go forward. And so that's the purpose of starting with the data. The other thing I think the data shows is that things have really changed over the last 25 years. And I know that all of you who are providers or who support providers have been changing with them. And we need to also make sure that our systems have evolved in similar ways to continue to support that work in the right ways. And so that's the other reason we wanted to start with data. So as we looked at population level data, we noticed a couple of trends. So first of all, the population, I am going to use this, sorry.
Yeah. I say to everyone all the time, like, just because I yell doesn't mean everyone has to keep up with me. Like, use the mic.
So the population of Massachusetts has increased over the last 25 years. It's gone up by about 14%. At the same time, the percentage of children as part of that whole has gone down. So the number of children 0 to 12 who are living in the Commonwealth is down by about 10%. 10% is a substantial number, but it's even more significant when you think about the reverse trend of the population overall. So 14% up overall, but 10% down in children 0 to 12. That decline is felt in different ways across the state. So when you look county by county, there are parts of the state that have had more significant declines than others. At the same time, the majority racial group is still white or Caucasian. However, the diversity within the state has really increased. So in 1993, about 13% of the state was populations of color. That's doubled in percentage, so it's now 27%. And then finally, Massachusetts is a great place to be a kid. So the Kids Count report, which takes kind of an overall indicator of child well-being and calculates that state by state, actually has said that Massachusetts is the #2 place to be a kid in the country. But when you look a little closer at that data, at certain indicators, there's still a lot of work to do. So we'll look more closely at that. So here's the picture of children. There are about 960,000 children 0 to 12 in the state. They're concentrated very much in the central and northeast regions. And then when you think about how the population has gone down, just reading this graph, and I apologize, I know it's far away, and I wish the monitors worked, so it's hard to, but I'll describe it in a way that hopefully makes sense to the folks who can't see. As you go left to right on this chart, you're going chronologically from 1993 over to 2018. And each of these bars is actually an age group. And so this blue bar is the age group 0 to 3, and what it shows is that the decline among 0 to 3-year-olds is actually steeper than the decline overall of 0 to 12. And so the losses in child population are felt more at the younger ages. Children 0 to 3 are down by about 17% in the last 25 years, and children 4 to 6 are down by about 14% compared to the overall 10% average. As I said earlier, this is felt in different ways across the state, and so it's felt more steeply in, for example, western parts of the state, and less so in this area and some of the more central and northeast regions. So you can see this is county by county, and some have quite significant declines compared to others. So this is not something that's unique to Massachusetts. Across the country, birth rates are at a 30-year low right now. And when the New York Times tried to figure out what was behind that, they did a survey with a threshold of families in the country. And they asked, of all the potential reasons, why have you decided not to have more children? And what they found is that the 3 of the top 4 responses were economic in nature, and the top response was actually that childcare was too expensive. So about 64% of families said childcare was too expensive. Now this is very relevant for you all, right? Because if you look at the next slide, childcare is one of the biggest expenses families face here. You're number 2 behind DC in the nation in terms of the cost of childcare. And just to pull out a couple of examples of what that means. So it's a high burden for all families. So if you think about the full income range of all of the income earners in the state, The median, or the middle of that, for that group, it's about 22% of their annual income to take care of one infant with childcare. When you think about lower wage earners, so a minimum wage earner, for example, to take care of one infant in childcare would be 83% of their annual earnings. And for a childcare worker, it's about 74% of their annual earnings. So say you have 2 children, an infant and a preschooler, that ends up being about $36,000 a year for both those kids. And that is actually 60% more than the average cost of rent in Massachusetts. So comparatively, it is a significant cost. Increasing diversity over the last 25 years, I said we've gone from 13% populations of color up to 27%. In particular, this black bar is showing the Latinx population, which has gone from 5% in 1993 up to 12% today, although you see increases across the board in every population of color. And then finally, thinking about all of the ways in which it's a great state to be a kid, and overall child well-being indicators are really strong. When you look a little closer at the sub-indicators that feed that report, there are ones that are a little bit more uncomfortably close to national norms than you would probably want to see for Massachusetts. So about 14% of children living in poverty here, 20% of children have parents who lack secure employment. Achievement indicators lag, so about 49% of fourth graders who are not proficient in reading, 50% of eighth graders who are not proficient in math, and then a number of other things that relate to the work that we all do in this room, as well as our sister agencies and other work. So one of the things that we've done is think about the regions and what the differences and similarities are among them, because this is a statewide process. And so for those of you with a statewide footprint, we thought it would be interesting to actually look region by region to see what some of those differences are. One caveat is that the regions are not organized by county, and so you will see counties that actually bridge multiple regions. And so all of the figures up here are not a one-for-one match, but they give you a sense of scale and a sense of sort of the differences. And so Region 1, which is Western Mass, covers more than half the state geographically, but is one of the smaller, second to last smallest in terms of child population. So there are 232,000 children in the Western Mass region. This is still ages 0 to 12. And they've had one of the steeper declines in child population over the last 25 years, so about 18% down since 1993. Region 2, which is Central Mass, has about 451,000, so next to Boston and the sort of metro area, this is the second largest region in terms of the number of children. That region has been down about 4.4% in child population, so you can see that's quite a difference between 18% down and 4.4% down. Northeast Mass, about 126,000, so one of the smaller footprints in terms of the number of children, and down about 7% in the last 25 years. And then the Southeast and Cape region, so 285,000 children, down about 13%, a little bit higher. And then finally Metro Boston, 622,000 children, down about 4.5%, so not feeling the decline as much here as elsewhere. The other thing I'll just say before we move on is that these tables, and we will post these online so you can all access them, these tables show the changes among each age band, 0 to 3, 4 to 6, 7 to 12, and there are differences region by region. So it's not to say that universally 0 to 3 has gone down the most in every region. It actually there's some nuances in that, and we've heard about that as we've engaged in each region. So let me just pause for a minute.